All right, so as you hopefully all know by now, we've got what I've been calling phase one of the van build, the DIY custom high top on the van, and our build done, so it's usable. And we were supposed to have already been out camping in it to try to our trial run. Unfortunately, the weather decided not to cooperate. We had a pretty big storm last week. Got that mostly melted off. Another one, a small one this morning, a small snow this morning. So we had to delay heading out for our trial run. We're going to do a full van tour and show you everything we've done and where everything stands right now. But we kind of wanted to do it while we had stuff in here while we're using it, so we can show you how we're actually using it instead of just kind of a sterile build that hasn't had any stuff put in it yet. So we're not trying to be mysterious or anything. It's coming. We just want to show that video while we're using it. So that'll be coming hopefully later this week. The snow is supposed to melt off, and today we're recording this on Tuesday, election day, first week in November. And tomorrow we have our calendars coming in. The photo calendars are arriving tomorrow, so we want to pick those up before we go out of town for a few days to try out the van. And if you haven't ordered yours yet, head over to our website, robertwitham.com, link in the video description. You can check yours out, get and order one. So they'll be in tomorrow on Wednesday, day after we record this, and we'll be shipping them out immediately. All right, so I wanted to react to, in this video, a few of viewer questions and comments and things. Mostly we got really nice comments, which is great. Of course, we knew we'd get a few, can we call them trolls, on a project of this sort. But a lot of people have come in the middle of the series and haven't seen all the videos, so I wanted to touch on some of the questions and comments that arose during the course of this video project. And some of these have been asked like multiple times, or similar comments made multiple times. And so instead of trying to reply to them, over and over and over again, we'll just address them in a video. So first up, wanted to highlight one of many great comments. Katie in New Hampshire: the filming of the video is great too. Melanie's doing a great job filming. Reminds me of this old house. Great job. Thank you. Melanie says thank you. It is definitely a lot of extra work to film and try and record a process like this. It takes a lot more time to do that, and it takes an extra set of hands out of the equation for getting things actually done. But we thought it'd be interesting to share, and we thought a lot of people would find it interesting. That appears to have been the case. And there's just not a ton of videos on DIY high tops on YouTube, and a lot of those that are out there, they're just like a time lapse or something, or they don't really show a lot of detail. So we tried to show a reasonable amount of detail without getting hopelessly bogged down in the details. So one of the questions that's come up, I forgot to log who asked this question, but what does Melanie think of this project?
I didn't have any real reservations about it, except for concerned about Robert's back and shoulder. Honestly, I wasn't too concerned about putting a saw and taking the roof off the van. I thought it was a good idea, and it would make the van have more usable space. We knew the camper just was falling apart, and even if you fix one part, you still got another part to fix, and it was going to be too much work, too much money, too much time. So I thought it was a good idea, and I knew that Robert has mad skills, so he knew how to put it all together, and I was pretty confident that he could do it. Why not buy anything newer? Because everything newer was very expensive, and honestly, a lot of them just weren't very good. I know we looked at that one over in South Dakota, and they got steam coming out of the engine and everything else, and I was just like, how long is it going to sit in the garage till it gets fixed? At the mechanics, and how much is that going to cost? And so this was actually the more reasonable option, I thought, and it was an older vehicle anyway, so it's not like we're really going to depreciate it, and worst comes to worst, we'll glue down a piece of plexiglass over the top and just call it a day, So yeah, so I didn't have any reservations, and I think it's turned out real well, and I think it's going to be very functional for us.
All right, then we've had a few just, I don't know what people are thinking, comments, the whole, you'll kill your gas mileage and fuel efficiency, you'll get terrible gas mileage. We didn't think about that. I mean, seriously, obviously, we're raising the roof, we're increasing the dimensions of a vehicle down the road. Yes, we're going to get worse gas mileage. This thing's not a fuel efficiency. It's not a vehicle you buy for fuel efficiency to start with. I think I'm around 10 or 12 around town. I've never driven just in town long enough to really clock that. But on open roads, I'm anywhere between 14 or 15 up to 18 under ideal circumstances. Ideal circumstances meaning I'm holding it at 65 or less, which I always do anyways. But also there's no wind or it's a tailwind, and the roads are flat, not too many hills, not a lot of stop and go. It's all open road. So that's like the best case scenario is about 18 or less. Anyways, so yes, we will take a gas mileage hit, I am sure, raising the roof like this. That being said, and I haven't had it out to do a road test yet, so I know it'll be less. Based on what I'm driving it, and we've done a mix of driving with it, the engine's not working any harder so far, except for like if it's a bit windy or if we're on a longer grade, especially at higher speed. I'm sure there'll be an effect. We will let you know what that is when we know what it is, because I do track our fuel efficiency in both vehicles. The other thing, this was never a question about, gee, should we keep the van as it is or should we put a high top on it? That was not the question. The question was, do we put a high top on the van or do we sell the van and buy an RV or a schoolie or a shuttle bus or some larger van? It was never a question of keeping it as it was. I've mentioned before, the trailer is almost 30 years old. It's literally falling apart. It's an ultralight. It's falling apart. It also needs new axles, brakes, rims, wheels, all of it, tires, so doing all of that, we're over $5,000. It's not a project I want to do myself, so we're over $5,000 to get it done, and structurally it's still kind of falling apart. So it doesn't make sense to do it, and I don't want to travel with a trailer anymore. So we weren't doing that. So we were going back to a single vehicle solution for travel and keeping the van as it was with two people in it, needing to live out of it for months at a time or longer, me needing to be able to work as we're traveling. Something had to change. So this was one option, was raising the roof. Any option we did was going to be a hit on fuel efficiency. And one more thing about that. We have a Prius. This thing doesn't have to get driven every day. This is our camper. It's our liveaboard vehicle. It's our vehicle. And even with a new design, we can pick up some construction materials if we're doing a project or if we're working on my parents' house and need something, whatever. So it's it gets used, but it's not like we have to drive this thing every day. If we just have errands to do, we take the Prius. If we're just running over to Rapid City or down to Casper or somewhere out of town, or sometimes even up to the mountains, just for a day trip, we take the Prius because 50 miles a gallon, right? Then there's the comments like, it'll never drive down the road, it'll tip over with the wind. Okay, spoiler alert, you guys will see more of this coming up in real time, but spoiler alert, it drives down the road just fine. We've driven it at highway speeds, we've driven it in windy conditions, it's fine. It is not as big as it looks, and it's not as heavy as it looks. More on that to come in upcoming videos, but it's fine. Also, I've mentioned this multiple times before, this is a 1-ton Super Duty Ford E350. I would not have even attempted a project like this on a half-ton van, probably not even on a 3/4 ton. So we made many considerations. This was a carefully considered project. We thought about everything you can think of, and probably a whole lot more in the course of planning this project and deciding if we even wanted to do this project. And then there's the other ones, called a bunch, obviously we did the roof, right? The roof will leak, it'll never keep the water out, and blah, blah, blah. Now again, spoiler alert, it's bone dry. It does not leak a drop. It is perfect. This is a reliable roof system. It has considerations like any other roof system, including the very popular rubber-style roofs that are on RVs these days. They all require maintenance. They all require care and attention. The roof on your house requires care and attention and maintenance as well. And even on your house, roofs are not designed to be waterproof. They're designed to shed water. And of course, the steeper the pitch, the easier it is for that to do that. We have a very simple strategy we can implement as part of our roof system here, and that is that if we know it's going to snow or rain, we just park on a little bit of an angle. It helps to drain it off. So it does not leak. It's a very reliable roof system. There's not a lot of places it can possibly leak, and again, we'll go over more of that when we do the tour video, but we'll just get that out there that not a problem. Okay, back to some of the other specific questions and comments that I want to address. Katie's Camp Kitchen looks like fun, a convertible. It was awesome. That comment goes back to the time we were driving the van around with no roof on it, and it was fun. It was literally a few moments of like, boy, I almost wish we could just leave the roof wide open. This is awesome. I suppose if we wanted to get really creative, maybe we could have like done some kind of an opening cover or something, but we still wouldn't have the high top, except for like, I mean, we could have opened it up when the weather was nice and stood up. But so we didn't do that, but it was a lot of fun. From Jack here, as a six-year van nomad, cutting a top off a van would scare the heck out of me, but I'd love to have a high top. I'll be interested in your project. But be careful, Bob Wells, Cheap RV Living, hired a guy who works with plastic or fiberglass to do it. It was a disaster. Yes, absolutely. On Bob's first high top there, he got a horrible time with it, all kinds of problems. If we were to have had a commercial high top done, we would have done it at a shop that it was well regarded and had a good reputation. But again, you are having somebody else, you are relying on what somebody else is doing for work. And I think you're going to be more limited in how you can fix things if there are problems. If we have a problem with this, I don't really think we're going to, because we were very careful in what we did, very considered. It's overbuilt while still balancing weight and all of that. If we have a problem, we can fix it because we built it, so we know how to fix it. So that's, I don't think we'll have a problem, but it should be pretty easy to solve if we do. And cutting the top off the van, yeah, that was very intimidating. And that was a single part probably that held me back the longest, because once you cut the top off, you kind of got to do something with it. So that was definitely an intimidating moment. Okay, Rick asks, have you checked any junkyards for high tops? Have you thought about going the cargo trailer route again? Then he says he had a grandfather that chopped the top half off a station wagon and attached it to the top of a cargo van back in the 70s to make his own high top. Okay, first on the custom high top there your grandfather did, Rick, that is awesome. I love it. We didn't have a spare station wagon to do that with. But no, that's awesome. I've seen myriad. Is a decade I've been traveling full time, living out of different vehicles and hanging out in a lot of nomad mecca spots. I've seen some very interesting high top type conversions. Some I would never even think about. Others I think are just pretty cool. I once saw over in Sturgis, South Dakota, at the bike rally. I was over there, and I saw a schoolie that somebody had cut a hole in the roof and mounted the body of a Volkswagen Beetle onto. Now, you talk about a high roof, right? But I would not do it, but it was pretty cool to see still. As far as like junkyard high tops, it crossed our minds. We thought about it, but basically what it came down to is, I think if we were going to find something that was going to fit this van nicely, it probably would have been shorter and more rounded and stuff than we wanted to get into, and we wanted the full use of the storage and other things. If we did find something like bigger like that, it probably would have been older than this van, because they don't seem to really do those anymore. And I think the weight would have been such we probably would have needed a forklift to navigate it. We could have got it on a trailer and had a junkyard loaded on a trailer, but then we would have had to have a forklift, I think, to get it on. And there probably would have been a lot more challenge trying to seal it down than on getting something that was designed for this series of Econolines. We did think about the cargo trailer route. And I think if I were to buy another trailer at some point, it would almost certainly be a cargo trailer, and we do our own build in it. But at least we're starting with walls and a roof. So it would save quite a bit of work in that, and it'd be a little less intimidating to get started with. Bottom line is I can haul trailers. I've done it for work, different projects over the years. I've hauled this one thousands and thousands of miles already. I just don't care to travel that way. So like if I'm getting paid to haul a trailer around, no big deal. But as far as the way I like to travel, it's just a lot more convenient for me to be able to do it in a single vehicle. Okay, from Greg, this should be good, standing by for the fun. I solved a lot of solar problems by dumping the 12-volt Renogy panels. Got a 315 panel in the Caravan. Nice part is just 36 volt. There's not enough real estate on a van roof to match the output of 12-volt panels. I did cross my mind to try something different with the solar. Ultimately, we decided with this project, we were spending so much on it already, and there was so much of a time investment already, that we just stuck with what we had that I knew was what met my needs. So we have the 400-watt Renegys and a Renogy 40-amp MPPT controller, and we are going to be upgrading the battery shortly. We also have a Blue Eddy, a big Blue Eddy we're going to be putting in here to supplement the system. So I did think about it. I was just telling Melanie the other day that as far as the solar panels go, when we retire this vehicle and upgrade to something different, there's a real good chance the solar panels are going with it, because it was a bit of a challenge getting them all up there with the way we had to configure them. So we very likely will do something different in the future. But for this one, we already had a system going. On the old ones, so we just recycled that system. All right, then we got no, Melanie, save Robert from himself before it's too late. You guys would be better off spending money on newer used travel trailer or used cargo trailer, build it out to fit your needs. Trying to convert a van with 300K is like throwing your money away. There have been many, many moments in this process when I was wondering what was wrong with my brain, where I was wondering what happened to my sanity. That being said, once we get to actually use this thing, I think it'll be worth it. But there definitely were moments. And so if you're asking would I recommend anybody else does this, if you've got the skill and the resources and the time and a place to do it and the budget and all the rest, and you want to do it, I mean, it has been, in some ways, a fun and interesting project. It's also been a very challenging project. So I don't know that I really would say everybody ought to do this. I definitely would not say everybody ought to do this. For some people, this can be an interesting project, but it's kind of an edge case thing for sure. I think for most people, if you've got a van that's not a high top, you're probably going to be better off just going to one of the commercial shops, picking out something you think will meet your needs and getting it slapped on. We've already mentioned about the cargo trailer thing. We did consider it. I wouldn't say I will not consider it again, but at this point, we kind of want to have the single vehicle for traveling. I think that's easier. Works for, at least for the way I travel. The van is higher mileage. It's sitting at 293,000 right now. It's 19 years old, so it's not new. This was from the golden era of the Ford and Chevy full-size cargo vans, though, and we have no assurances the engine will hold up for a long time, but if it doesn't, we'll replace it. It's still going to be quite a bit cheaper than, even the build and replacing the engine is going to be quite a bit cheaper than trying to buy something else decent. The stuff we were looking at, and anything that was lower mileage was just way more than we were willing to pay. Anything that was in a price point we were willing to maybe consider, it was ridiculously high mileage already. And, you know, my thinking is you got newer vehicles, you don't know how they're built. It's already got 150, 200,000 miles on it. I don't want to take a chance on that. I know this vehicle. I know this van. It's only been 3 owners. I mentioned that before. I'm the 3rd owner. I knew the 2nd owner. I've done a ton of maintenance on the vehicle myself over the last 10-ish years. A lot of the stuff I haven't done has been done by mechanics I know and trust. I have all the receipts when it's brand new. The transmission's not nearly as old as the rest of the van. It was replaced shortly before I got it. So we're taking a chance on it, and if we have problems, we'll deal with it. But we decided we'd stick with the devil we know over the devil we don't know. And after some of the looking around we just said, nah, we're just sticking with what we got. And, you know, we kind of both wanted to know if we could do this, if we could pull it off. So we did it. Will I do it again? Far less likely. I'll probably end up doing another build again, because even when we were looking at RVs and stuff, we could not find anything that really was going to meet our needs. So we still would have been, and it was part of the consideration with RVs, we were still going to be doing, over the course of time, a complete rebuild. It would have been some initial revisions and modifications, and then over time, we just end up rebuilding the whole thing anyway. So his comment, good luck. Every homemade high top I've seen looks like crap. Hopefully yours will be better. Well, we hope so too. I've seen a lot of DIY high tops that don't look too great. I've also seen a lot that really are nicely done. They might not be the way I would have done it, but they're nicely done. And that's the whole thing about custom stuff, is you can make what works for you. We're not done. We're done with the build to the point that we can use it. We're not 100% done with finishing touches. That's going to be what I'm calling phase 2, just for, I mean, I could have called it phase B or anything else, beta or whatever we want to call it, but we got it usable. We're going to use it and make sure that it's working as we want. Then we're going to work on a bunch of finished details. We've already, just this morning, we were talking about more finished details. Melanie's online finding some cool options and ideas for us to go with the ideas we already got, but we think it's going to look nice enough when we're done. And most importantly, this is absolutely a form follows function project. I am concerned about the aesthetics of it. I am concerned about how it looks, but that's secondary to us compared to how well it works. We need it to work well, and then we'll make it look as nice as we can once it works well. And this sounds like a tricky job. I can't wait to see your game plan. Cool. It probably was a tricky job. I was mentioning earlier, there were definitely moments when I was like, what were we thinking? I've told Melanie more than once, I am experiencing decision fatigue because every day we're out here working on this thing. Even though we kind of have a game plan, we have a strategy for what we're trying to do, there still seem like there were hundreds of small decisions and moderate decisions that had to be made every single day. And that gets exhausting after a while, just having to make so many decisions. But it's coming along well. We really are looking forward to doing a tour and showing you guys. Like I said, we just want to, have some stuff in it before we do it. Alicia, wow, how exciting! Looking forward to it. Thank you, Alicia. Some of these comments go back several videos, but yeah, it's coming along nicely. Of course, we're sitting in it now. We were doing some work on it yesterday. The weather has definitely slowed us down, and we have not been filming near as much on the interior build between the weather and between just trying to get things done because we're running out of we're getting fewer days and fewer hours in those days when we can work because it's not snowing or it's not blowing or it's not really, really cold. But it's coming right along, and we're excited to have it, to get it out camping, hopefully this week, if the weather cooperates just a little bit. We had, last week, that big storm. They were saying in the news that we set a record for moisture with that storm system. We had, I think it was only 6 or 8 inches of snow here in Gillette. Other areas had quite a bit more, but it was very wet, nasty, slushy snow. It rained first, then it was just nasty, wet stuff. The kind of stuff we don't get all that often here. And it was apparently quite a bit of moisture in it. I don't know what record-setting moisture means exactly, like for that day or for that month or what it all was, but it followed several months of no rain at all, so it was kind of needed for the vegetation and for the wildlife and all those things, and it should have put an end to the wildfire season. It's been really bad this year here in Wyoming, but yeah, it's definitely getting harder. And the other challenge with filming right now is that it's getting tedious. A lot more slower. And so we're putting up one piece of trim and having to trim and resize things. So it gets a little bit tedious, but we do have some footage of that we'll be sharing soon. And like I said, we'll show you the whole thing, where we're at. And we do have plans to film some of the future projects still in the interior on ones that we feel like it'll make a little more sense to film. And Sandy Sue, cutting off the rooftop sounds intimidating, so it'll be interesting to follow your progress. Good luck. It was hugely intimidating. Up until that point, talking about it's one thing, getting some materials is one thing, planning is one thing, taking off all the solar and all that was bad enough. But then when it comes time to actually start drilling holes and putting a saw in and cutting off the roof was definitely intimidating. That took some nerve to do that. But I think it's going to be a really useful space for us. And fun story, my 10-year-old granddaughter pops in the other day, and the grandkids love coming over to the van to hang out, and to the camper trailer. They're just like tiny houses, they love it. And the granddaughter pops in and says, "Oh, I can stand up now." And we just busted out laughing because they've always been able to stand up in here. But they are getting to the point where they're getting close to the roof when they stood up, so it was pretty amusing. But that's it for this one. I think that kind of covers a representative sampling of some of the questions and comments we've been seeing. We appreciate all of you who've been watching. We appreciate all of the words of encouragement and the positive feedback we've been receiving, and of course questions and stuff as well. Some of them are a little troll-like and they did get deleted. If you're a troll on this channel, you go away. It's just that simple. I don't put up with that foolishness. In America, you have a right to speak, but you can take it somewhere else. You don't have a right to be obnoxious on my channel and my space. So go start your own YouTube channel if you want to make obnoxious content. So you probably won't find too many of those because I've tried to delete the obnoxious ones, but a lot of reasonable comments and questions, and so I did want to address some of those here in the video. Well, thanks for joining us this video. Like I said, we're recording this on Tuesday. Our calendars will be in tomorrow, Wednesday, so head over to robertwitham.com if you want to grab one of those. Make great gifts, too, if you don't want one yourself. And Thursday, we're hoping to go out on a trip for a few days. We're still trying to decide where we're going. Because of the weather, we can't just go up into the mountains or something. First of all, they don't plow up. They plow the main paved road. They don't plow any of the forest roads, so we're not going to be able to get on those with a cargo van. And on top of that, it's getting down into the 20s at night here in the valleys, which means it's probably 20 or teens up in the mountains. And that's just a wee bit chilly. did not get a wood stove in here. I wanted to. I don't think I've seen any comments about that. Have you seen any, Melanie? Nobody's mentioned a wood stove. Every time we watch a Primal Outdoors video, I'm like, I want a wood stove in the van. I seriously tried to figure out how to put one in here. So far, I haven't figured it out. If I ever do figure it out, it may be installed as an add-on. I would love it. But although that being said, when you're like in the desert, it's a lot less valuable because there's like no wood, and you gotta pay for wood, and that's pretty expensive. But anyway, we're gonna end this video here. We got some things to do today, some projects to do today, picking up calendars tomorrow, and then hopefully Thursday, if the weather holds on us, we don't get another snowstorm, we're heading out. We're gonna have to go somewhere that we can get to by paved roads, and then it's like a good gravel or semi-improved parking area or access road, so that we don't get stuck on our first outing with the new DIY custom high-top van conversion and build. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll catch you in the next one.